What is going on, everybody? Grady here for another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at this. This is the Bulova Breton. It's a limited edition Swiss-made Bulova, part of their Joseph Bulova collection. So let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. As always, let's take a look at some dimensions. First things first, you're going to see is a 32 millimeter case diameter, a lug to lug here of 45 millimeters, a lug width of 20 millimeters, and then a tapering bracelet from 20 all the way down to 18, where you will find the deployant clasp. Looking off to the side here, it is an 11 millimeter case thickness with a 6 millimeter signed Bulova crown. For the glass, it is a piece of very curved sapphire with an anti-reflective coating. So the significance here with regards to a watch like this is the Joseph Bulova collection is a collection they've done with multiple different watches, this one being limited edition to 350 units and made to call back to famous Bulovas of old back from the 1920s. And I'd say nowadays, being the roaring 20s again in some regards, I think that a watch like this is a fun step back in time in order to really, I think, appreciate the past. Looking at the dial itself, you're going to see the railroad minute hand there, as you can see, and then the very, very beautiful handset, as well as, and as you can see here when I distort it, that the numerals on the watch are just so gosh darn pretty. It really is just a look back in time from the retro case shape here with the faceted edges, the high polish bracelet, to, of course, their vintage appearance. It really is just something that I think a lot of watch companies, if you do have a back catalog of this type of watch or this era of watch, or you appreciate this era of watch, I think this has really been kind of a fun departure from a lot of the more modern, or even, I guess you look at things like the Tudor Black Bay 58, these retro dive watches, in that you are getting a really fun Art Deco appearance, but with a lot of modern specifications, having sapphire, having a nice, strong movement, and ultimately modern building materials. And one thing kind of touching on the movement in the watch itself, it is in fact a Swiss-made watch here, which I found to be a really interesting point when I first purchased this, as Bulova being owned by the Citizen Group. Of course, they do have their ties to the Swiss watch industry with Frederic Constant and all of that, but the fact that they went out to make this a Swiss-made watch, I found to be a very, very cool option. And the dial being as simple as it is, having Bulova 1875 automatic Swiss-made, it's just not too complicated and too in your face. However, I do find that a lot of people really gravitate towards this appearance. I get a lot of people asking, what is it? I've never seen something like that before. I love the rectangular case shape. As you can see here also, it is an exhibition case back, just half case back, so you can see a little bit into that movement. But to show you a little bit here on the dimensions, because that's really the big thing with a watch like this, is you hear 32 millimeters and you think, man, that's way too small. But in fact, with the 45 lug to lug and the elongated shape here, it actually fits on my wrist very, very comfortably, as I have a 7¼ inch wrist. As you can see here, being relatively thin, sits quite comfortably. Pretty thin bracelet as well, which I've always found to be a really, really beautiful design. Simple in the sense that it's just pinned in collars, but the way it dances with the light is just so pretty. Popping it off here once again, just a simple deployant clasp, no signing of any kind, anything like that. Does that mean this watch is perfect? Absolutely not. One of the things that I love about this watch is the fact that it is high polish, but that's also one of the downsides. As you can see here next to the signed crown, if you look closely, you are going to see an array of scratches. I find myself, when I want to wear it, I just twist the crown here to wind it up just to get it going, and then go to pull it out. And as I do that, if there is any dirt on my finger, anything at all that could cause it to scratch, it does. And, that does bother me a little bit. I know I try to be as careful as possible with something like this, but it does, in fact, scratch a little bit. And that bracelet Although it does have very small, easy links, so you can get a very nice fitment, as you could see here, not because you don't have any micro adjustment. Once again, that high polish is just a little bit of a pain to keep clean. You got to wash the watch every single time you go to put it on, because otherwise it's just going to be a giant smudge magnet. And this is more just a design thing for me. I recognize that they want to do their advertising a little bit for the Joseph Bulova edition. I didn't really need to see the movement, although it's cool for those who might not be as familiar with the movements. This is a simple automatic movement, Swiss automatic movement. It's not too glamorous to look at, so I didn't really find it to be something that they really needed to show off per se. I think it would have been a little bit better if they just did a very beautiful case back that allowed you to see some of the information and maybe some more design that way. Otherwise, though, kind of where does that put the Bulova brand, and really where does this pivot the watch industry as a whole? Because although this particular watch isn't something that has gravitated towards a ton of people, as retro dive watches are really here to stay as the hallmark of watchmaking right now. It seems like everybody has some form of a retro dive watch. This sits in a unique category. They are tying back to their back catalog. There's no question about it. But the fact that they get to integrate modern materials, modern construction, and, well, these watch designs are 100 years old, and it still looks good. I get people asking about it all the time, looking at the crazy distortion in the, if you see here on the edge of the case, the way that plays with the light, as you can see, the aggressive curvature of that sapphire glass, and the beautiful, beautiful dial here with the railroad minute hand, and it is just absolutely stunning. But tying it all back, though, is watches of this era, this Art Deco style, I personally believe should be coming back. Not for the sake of because I have one and it's good, but we need some variety. I think the luxury sports watches from the 70s became a huge trend over the last 4 or 5 years. I think right now we're really in the trends of these retro dive watches, which I do believe look very nice, but I do look at my collection from time to time, and I found myself selling a lot of my retro dive watches because after so many, how many can you have? But this is something that still feels modern, still feels contemporary. It's easy to use, it's simple, but it provides a really new, fun look for watches in that having that rectangular case shape. It's not super gaudy and over the top, but yes, it does have high polish everywhere, which grabs the light. But you look at the dial, it's pretty simple, just a nice cream color dial with some gold hands, gold numbers and just simple black hands. It's not anything too complicated. So yeah, that is really an overview on the watch. So let's go wrap up the video. Alrighty, well, that is an overview here of the Bulova Breton. Thank you so much for checking out today's video. Hope each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, and hey, stay awesome.